Welcome back to Reviews with Elaine, because I have opinions. Today's opinions will be about The House at the Edge of Magic by Amy Sparks. This is a middle grade fantasy novel about a girl of indeterminate age named Nine. She is a thief in this pseudo-Victorian kind of city, and she is part of a, Oliver Twist-like gang, run by an old man named Pockets. Pockets found her when she was 3 and took her in. All he asks for in exchange for food and housing is that she and the other thieflings that live in the nest steal pretty little things for him. That they bring him gifts, presumably to sell, though from what we've seen of the nest, I'm not entirely sure he is selling this stuff, in which case I'm not sure where they're getting food or anything. But one day, when out hunting for gifts, Nine gets in over her head. She tries to steal a beaded bag and only gets away, barely surviving, with a small, what she thinks is going to be a trinket. When she gets a chance to really examine it, she realizes it's a miniature house. And in disappointment, she casually flicks the door knocker, which immediately causes the house to grow to full size. Inside this house, she will find a wizard who looks about her age but has occasionally weirdly ancient eyes, a troll housekeeper, and a scientist who just happens to be a spoon, and a curse. If she can help lift this curse, then she will earn a jewel, which will finally get her the financial freedom she needs to leave Pockets. But only if she can survive long enough. So I'll be honest here, I'm not sure if this book was a little too young for me, or if it just honestly wasn't that good. Some of the flaws I saw here might not be a problem for the 2nd through 5th graders I think this book is actually aimed at. But some of them might. I do like middle grade fiction, though I do tend to be more prone to reading young adult than middle grade, but I do like kids' books. Especially after having read something really heavy, it can be a light, fun escape to read something for kids. But on the other side of that, I'm a lot pickier when it comes to kids' books than I am adults' books. And I think a lot of that just comes down to the fact that I'm not the target audience. And yes, some books out there are targeted at kids and adults. But that's a really hard line for an author to walk, to make something that is enjoyable for adults and children. And I feel like some books just aren't really meant to do that. Some books really are just for the kid target audience. Like, for example, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I read them to some kids I was babysitting, and I found them super annoying. But I know that the kids absolutely loved them. They were their favorite books. So I feel like some of those books just aren't for me. And the younger the target audience is, the harder it's going to be to write something that is appropriate both for that audience, that adults will also enjoy. And so I don't know if this is just a matter of me being so far outside of the target audience. But the first sign I was not going to enjoy this book was Dr. Spoon. He's a spoon, but he's also some kind of doctor, like a scientist. He wears a kilt and carries a sword and does experiments, but he's a spoon. And he just doesn't work for me. He's barely in the book. Does next to nothing in the scenes he does appear in. His backstory is nebulous at best, but he's too much of a character to be a look how weird the world is, while being too little of a character to actually be a major character. He's basically a mascot. Now, if this was a movie, I'd say, yeah, he was thrown in literally just to have a character you could sell toys of. And objectively, he's my least favorite kind of mascot, because there are really 2 different kinds of mascots. There are the ones that are just basically animals with, a little bit too much intelligence to be a normal animal. It's cute, it's fluffy, it follows the lead around, it might occasionally make a funny expression, but it doesn't really have a place except for to be cute. And then there are the kinds that actually have almost human-level intelligence or human-level intelligence, but still have to fill the same role? And that ends up having characters that lack depth. They have often no faults or no real faults. Often they have faults like, oh, he's stupid. And they completely lack character arcs. So they just follow the lead around, have to be rescued every now and then, and deliver the kind of jokes that only 10-year-olds find funny. To me, a good example of the two differences here is Frozen. Frozen has two basic mascot characters. There's the reindeer, who I love. He's cute. He is a lot more sentient and emotive than actual reindeers, but the other characters don't have to try to treat him like a normal character. He's useful, he follows the logic of the rest of the story, and he's unobtrusive. He doesn't distract from the main story. But then there's Olaf. I do not like Olaf. I find him distracting. He didn't fit the logic or the tone of the rest of the story. And generally, he was just trying way too hard to be cute. Like, every time he opened his mouth, it was mostly just, look at how cute and silly I am! And Dr. Spoon is a lot more like Olaf than he is like the reindeer. He exists entirely to show off how whimsical the book is. And just in general, I feel like this book was trying way too hard to be whimsical. Like, every page included like 5 examples of how weird this magic house is. We've got like, oh, we've got a troll butler, and then the house travels when you pull a toad's tongue, and the wizard wears pajamas, and the junk closet is a magic trash compactor, and the umbrella stand kicks you back, and there's this weird random bucket of orange goo that's never explained. And sometimes this overweighting of whimsy is actually a direct detriment to the story. Like, there are literally fights where serious conversations are happening, yet we have to pause every line for the wizard to make an off-topic comment about how much he likes hopscotch. In the climactic scene in this book, action is happening, violence is happening, and yet the sometimes dead, one of them moves slower than everybody else because he's this person's name, the perpetually late. And it's just this gag in the middle of an otherwise serious action scene. And that makes it really hard to get invested in interest, empathy, or, you know, basic drama when there's something silly interrupting it constantly. But also, a well-composed, whimsical world, everything works together to at least give the impression that it makes sense. Like, even if we technically don't know why something is happening, we feel like we do. It fits the rhythm of the story. And I didn't feel that with this book. It felt like everything was weird and whimsical just to be weird and whimsical. But my biggest problem here is I didn't buy the characters' motivations. Like, Nine spends the majority of this book talking about and thinking about how much she hates her life. She hates staying with Pocket, she needs out, anything to get out. But she repeatedly rejects any opportunity to change her life. And I get that the author was going for this, like, defensive, never show weakness, just keep pretending that everything's okay and saying everything's okay so that no one knows that you need help kind of character. But I'm still unsure why she didn't jump at the chance to run away to this house. She's living in a cellar, sleeping on a cold floor, barely eating, and a giant, fancy, magic house appears, and she can't stop thinking about how much she wants out as soon as possible. And yeah, she does repeatedly think about how she hates magic, but I'm not even sure why about that either. Like, yeah, when she first sees the troll butler, she's scared of him, and there are a couple of other things that scare her, but the majority of the time, she's not written as being scared. She's written as being mildly annoyed. So, like, literally, like, there's a talking spoon and a belching sugar bowl, and she's thinking, ugh, I hate magic, I need out of here. And I'm not sure why. And, like, literally, an 11-story house with a library, and she's described as loving reading, a fully stocked kitchen, yeah, the food's not good, but there's a kitchen, and a room that she is told will be absolutely perfect for her. But she wants out? And I'm really unsure why she was staying with Pockets in the first place either. Like, yeah, when she was a toddler, she clearly needed a guardian, but at this point, I'm assuming she's meant to be at very least 9, though honestly by the end of the book I was thinking she was aiming to be like, maybe meant to be like 16 or 17. And so she doesn't need a guardian anymore. And we are told that her and the other kids are the ones that are stealing all the gifts, which we're assuming is how Pockets buys the food. So why do we need Pockets? Like, maybe it's because, oh, he's the one that has to sell it. But no, then she mentions in passing that she's going to take this jewel to the pawn shop, so she clearly knows how to fence things. So there is no need for her to stay with Pockets, other than just to have a room to sleep in. And she even mentions that other kids have left, so it's not a matter of just it never occurs to her that leaving is possible. Now, Pockets does repeatedly tell her over and over and over again that without him, she'll be on the streets, she'll have no freedom, no life, nothing. And I get that the author was trying to show us a character who is basically being gaslit into believing she needs someone who she doesn't actually, but I feel like the author doesn't sell it. We needed to see Nine's reason to believe Pockets, and I don't see the reason she believes Pockets. Then she finds herself in this magic house that can go anywhere, in or out of the universe, and it holds no temptation for her. She doesn't even think about stealing shit from the house to fence, and she repeatedly talks about how she is a thief and a great thief. A side note of that, she claims she's this great thief, yet we only see her steal 3 things. 2 times she does not succeed, and all 3 times she almost gets caught. But it's not even just Nine's motivations that I have problems with, because objectively, none of the characters' motives make sense. Was the witch actually evil, or was she there to teach the wizard a lesson? Why the hell does Dr. Spoon make such a big deal about, oh, the curse needs to be broken as soon as possible, I need to go find the dish, it's very important that we break the curse immediately, and then immediately disappear upstairs to work on his experiments? Like, honestly, I really thought these experiments were going to come back and be an important part of the story, but they don't. So instead, he's just really into the idea of breaking the curse and then just doesn't care. And on that note, all the characters, all these cursed characters, seem weirdly mild and not much pressing energy to get this curse broken. Like, the first thing they do is go get, or attempt to go get tea. And it's just like, are they serious about this or not? But also, like, when Nine comes into the house, Eric and Flabbergast immediately let her go out, and then 10 seconds later are being like, oh my god, you can't leave. And, like, all of these motivation problems could have easily been addressed if the author had taken a slight moment more to explain to us the character motives, and less time to explain fucking magical broom closets. I was trying not to curse, but I failed. Now, I'm not going to address the twist ending here, because I'm not sure it would have been as infuriatingly obvious if I was actually in the book's target age range, but I am going to have to address the end, because I'm not sure that I agree with this book's morality. So I was trying really hard when I was writing this to not spoil the ending, but I cannot figure out a way to talk about this without spoilers. So heavy warning ahead, spoilers are coming, like I'm about to spoil the end of the book, so if you ever plan on reading this, maybe turn off the video now. But, so the entire book, the crux of the story, revolves around Flabbergast needing to admit that he is wrong. And yeah, good job. Teach kids to acknowledge when you are in the wrong. But when we read the balance of what the witch has done versus what Flabbergast has done, whether his statement about being more powerful was right or wrong does not matter. Like, Flabbergast said something mean. He locked the witch out of her house and pulled a few pranks. The witch repeatedly tried to kill him, and now is risking 3 lives to get revenge on him. The balance of the wrongs here is really off-kilter. And like, sure, cool, the witch is evil, right? No, the book tries to play it like, oh no, we're even here, and like, this is something that we both need to acknowledge we're wrong. Like, this is not a they both made mistakes kind of moment. This is not a, oh Flabbergast, did you learn your lesson kind of moment. And yet it's presented exactly as that. And like, this could have easily been fixed if we just had a moment where the witch is like, oh yeah, y'all were never in danger. I was not actually going to kill you with this curse. Like, clearly I was not going to kill you. But as far as we know, by the end of the book, the risk was real. They were at risk of dying. But overall, this book just didn't really work for me. And I think what bothered me so much was that the story had a lot of promise. I really was interested in the characters, there was a lot of potential there, and even the setting would have been great if the author hadn't spent so much time harping on how silly the world was. And I mean, yeah, a middle grade Oliver Twist with a cursed magic house? Yes, please. There's a reason I bought this book as soon as I read a description of it. but the execution just didn't live up to it for me. And it didn't work. But who knows? It might work for kids. I don't know.